The lecture hall on Thessaly Station orbited nothing in particular, a waypoint school built for the sons and daughters of 100 worlds. Professor Otis Renwick stood at the podium, a stocky man from Nebraska with silver stubble and the patience of someone who had taught teenagers from 12 species and survived. Today, he said, we're discussing the Human Combat Restriction Accord. A ripple of laughter moved through the amphitheater. In the third row, a Vantari student named Drossic leaned back, his crest feathers flaring in amusement. The one where humans aren't allowed to fight? We heard about that. Very generous of the coalition. It's not a gift, Renwick said mildly. It's a leash. Same thing, said a Korvaxi girl near the front, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Humans lost the war. Everyone knows this. The restriction was mercy so your species wouldn't be erased. Renwick didn't argue. He simply tapped his console, and behind him, on the massive display, a starfield appeared. Let's talk about why the restriction exists. Not what your textbooks say. What actually happened? The room settled, still smirking, still comfortable. 11 years ago, Renwick began. An unaligned species called the Ithrani attacked a human colony called New Providence. 14,000 people. Ithrani ships don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They come to erase. He pulled up a star chart, a single amber dot pulsing on the rim of human space. Coalition doctrine at the time said humanity wasn't a full member species yet, still in probationary status. That meant no coalition fleet was obligated to respond. New Providence was, by treaty, on its own. Drossic's feathers had stopped moving. So the humans lost the colony. No, Renwick said. That's the part nobody teaches you. 3 ships responded. Not coalition ships. Human ships. The Constitution, the Braddock, and a converted mining hauler called the Second Chance, crewed by 41 volunteers who weren't even military anymore. Miners, engineers, a couple of retired pilots. Against an Ithrani fleet assessed at 18 warships. Someone in the back laughed, sharp and disbelieving. 3 ships against 18. That's not bravery. That's an arithmetic failure. Watch the arithmetic, Renwick said, and hit play. The footage was coalition sensor data, captured from a monitoring buoy that had no stake in the outcome, no reason to lie. The room went quiet as 3 small human signatures dropped out of FDL directly into the heart of the Ithrani formation, not at the edges, not with room to run, but inside the kill zone, where their smaller ships could get underneath enemy shield arcs. That's suicide, Drossic whispered. That's the point, Renwick said. They weren't planning to survive. They were planning to buy time for the evacuation transports lifting off New Providence. Watch the timestamp. The Second Chance took 3 direct hits in the first 90 seconds and kept firing. The Braddock rammed an Ithrani cruiser's engine section, an act with a survival probability the sensor logs listed at effectively 0. And the Constitution, flying with half her hull open to vacuum, held a formation position for 11 minutes, dragging fire away from the transports, until an Ithrani capital ship's beam weapon finally cut her in half. Nobody in the amphitheater was smirking now. New Providence had 14,000 people, Renwick said, his voice steady, almost gentle. 12,906 made it off-world before the colony fell. The other 94 died in the transports that didn't get clear in time. Every single crew member on all 3 human ships was killed. 41 people. No survivors. The Korvaxi girl's 4 eyes had gone wide and still. The coalition report said the Ithrani fleet withdrew due to unexpected resistance. It didn't say. It didn't say humans did it with nothing, Renwick agreed. Because that's inconvenient. It's much tidier to write that a probationary species suffered acceptable losses and the matter resolved itself. He advanced the footage. The final minutes played out in merciless clarity. The Constitution's hull breaking apart, individual escape pods that never launched because their crews stayed at their stations, still firing point defense turrets by hand after the automated systems failed, buying seconds, then more seconds, for people they would never meet. Here's what the coalition didn't want widely known, Renwick continued. After New Providence, 11 other species filed emergency petitions to upgrade human probationary status. Not because they were moved, though some were. Because they were afraid. A species that would do this with 3 ships and no obligation to try was a species you did not want to see doing it with a full fleet and a grudge. So the restriction, Drossic said slowly, the pieces assembling behind his eyes. isn't because humans lost. The restriction, Renwick said, exists because the Ithranai fleet that fled New Providence went home and told their high command that humans don't calculate odds the way anyone expects. 6 months later, the Ithranai sued the coalition for a formal non-aggression pact with humanity specifically, the first time in recorded history the Ithranai had ever asked for peace with anyone. They'd never lost a colony assault before. They'd certainly never lost one to a species with a tenth of their firepower. He let that sit. The combat restriction accord isn't a leash. It's 43 worlds agreeing, in very careful diplomatic language, that they'd rather have humanity as a friend operating under agreed limits than an unrestricted variable they can't model. You don't put a muzzle on something you think is harmless. You put a muzzle on something you've seen. The amphitheater stayed silent for a long moment. Then the Korvaxi girl spoke, quieter now. What happened to the families? The 41 crew. New Providence rebuilt, Renwick said. It's a real colony now, 60,000 people. There's a memorial in the central square, 41 names, and beneath them, a single line the survivors chose themselves. He didn't need the slide to say it. He'd read it so many times he simply spoke it aloud. They were not ordered to come. They came anyway. Drossik sat very still, crest feathers flat against his skull, an expression of something like shame passing over features that weren't built to hold human expressions, but managed it anyway. Professor, he said finally, I withdraw what I said. I know, Renwick said. He didn't smile, exactly, but something in his tired Nebraska face softened. That's usually what happens once people actually watch the footage instead of reading the summary. He closed the display. The starfield faded, and New Providence's amber blinked out with it, 30 light years away, and, for the first time that day, no longer just a line in a treaty nobody in that room had bothered to understand. Class ended in silence. The good kind. The kind that meant something had actually landed. Renwick gathered his notes and let them file out quietly, 41 names still glowing faintly behind his eyes, the way they always did after that lecture, the way he suspected they always would.